Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm talking about a bit of a sensitive subject, and that is that Grenfell Tower will be carefully taken down to the ground. In other words, it's going to be demolished. If you don't know what Grenfell Tower is, that is a 24-storey residential tower block in London that was completed in 1974. However, it was also the scene of an extremely tragic and devastating fire on the 14th of June 2017, where 72 people sadly lost their lives. This announcement by the Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner is not one that has come out of the blue. Here in the UK, we've known about some kind of decision regarding what remains of the building's future since at least September, October. There was definitive talk about, okay, a decision has to be made about the tower, about what has got to happen. And obviously, there's since been a change in government since the tragedy. Even back then, almost 8 years ago, a lot of talk soon after the fire was obviously about, okay, what happens now to Grenfell Tower. This announcement by, again, Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, um, was made on the 7th of February. There is an official statement online. If you can just search for Grenfell Tower kind of demolishment statement, and it should come up. But it states, I'll read out some of it because it obviously comes into how I want to talk about this, because it does state that the Deputy Prime Minister has met bereaved family and survivors of the Grenfell Tower tragedy and written to both them and residents in the immediate community to share her decision that Grenfell Tower will be carefully taken down to the ground. This is a deeply personal matter for the people affected, and the Deputy Prime Minister is committed to keeping their voice at the heart of this process. She recognises how difficult it is for them, and her priority has been to let them know her decision first. It actually talks about meeting them last year that she did, and again explaining since late last year about how a decision was really going to have to be taken regarding the actual building. As it continues, the tower was home of the 72 people, innocent people who lost their lives, and survivors whose lives were obviously changed forever. Um, it says that it's clear from the conversations that people have had that it remains a sacred site. It's also clear that there is not a consensus about what should happen to it. And that is actually completely correct. This decision, and even again, as I said before it, in the years since, the almost 8 years since this tragedy occurred, people have their own obvious opinion on what should happen. Some people, especially around about the time of the 7th of February, when this announcement was made, there have been people saying that the tower should remain standing as a memorial, as a tribute to those who lost their lives. But obviously, on the other hand, you have also got people who wish, because it's there as a memorial, and not a meaning they want to get rid of the memorial, that it's a reminder of that horrible tragedy. It is a in your face, again, 24-storey tower block. It's right there in a lot of, I think it's Kensington area, that certainly in London it's there as when local people, because there are buildings very, very close to it, including a community centre which a BBC programme, DIY SOS, helped at least finish or refurbish a few years ago. So it's very, very, literally you could walk out the community centre, stand on, because it's kind of an elevated area, and you can stand and you see literally as you walk out of the community centre, the Grenfell Tower is right there. You can see it all on Google Earth and things like that. So it is there, and again, some people wish it to be taken down. Now, what part of what seems to have fueled Angela Rayner's decision, as this statement continues, and it continues saying in the uh, paragraph labelled expert advice, saying the Deputy Prime Minister has considered independent expert advice. Engineering advice says that the tower is significantly damaged. It remains stable because of the measures put in place to protect it. But even with the installation of additional props, the condition of the building will continue to worsen over time. Engineers also advise it is not practicable to retain many of the floors of the building in place as a part of a memorial that must last in perpetuity. Taking the engineering advice into account, the Deputy Prime Minister concluded that it would not be fair to keep some floors of the building that are significant to some families while not being able to do so for others, and knowing that for some this would be deeply unsettling. Firstly, the condition of the building. Obviously, it was a horrific and tragic and quite significant fire. Obviously, 72 individuals lost their lives. That's not being minimised by myself in any way, shape, or form. That should always be remembered, of course. But the damage to the building, at least it's now covered in thin kind of plastic sheeting, and there's a couple of boards on it about Grenfell with green hearts, always in our heart. Great, I think it's Grenfell Tower, always in our hearts or something. There's a couple of kind of banner kind of things right at the top, but the rest of it is just simply seeming like thin plastic sheeting. And part of the reason why the fire spread so quickly and so much was due to the cladding on the building itself. That is a huge part of why the fire spread so quickly and so devastatingly. And obviously, the whole fire and everything has caused tremendous damage to the building. I am not a structural engineer by any way, shape, or form. I keep saying this on kind of YouTube videos lately that well, once I've tried to record that I'm not this, I'm not that, but certainly I can't imagine personally that the building, from the pictures I've seen over the years, the state of the building after the fire, I can't personally imagine it. It's obviously not in the greatest of condition. The Again, it's been kind of propped up apparently, and there's been some stuff done we've heard about before. Again, it talks about that in the statement about props being put in to try and keep the structural integrity of the building. But again, it's just thin kind of plastic sheeting. I don't imagine that stuff is waterproof. I don't imagine that it's really protecting the building completely. Again, there's a lot of water damage as well due to the fire service, the little what they could do, and again the wind, the rain, and storms and stuff like that. So I personally am kind of concerned as well, which I think again some people are, about the structural integrity of that building. The last thing that anybody would wish to happen was that something would happen to the structural integrity of the building suddenly. And again, there are buildings very, very close by. There are people wandering about their business close by. It's really a enclosed space. I probably can't show images properly on Google, from Google Earth and that. I don't really want to get action taken against my account, but there is buildings and homes and stuff very, very nearby. So if something was to happen, that would lead to further potential tragedy, and that's certainly something that nobody wants to happen. Nobody wants to happen. Certainly, I don't. Uh, and so, again, if the expert advice is saying that it has got to be demolished, that might be the safest option. Again, not any kind of structural engineer, but it's been open to the elements for almost 8 years now. They talk there also about retaining some of the floors or some of the sections. That's also again came up in the last few days, which is I kind of wanted to revisit this and actually do the video about this. Is obviously again, as it states there, uh, and I've never been affected by such a tragedy, but you would imagine, you've got some floors where some individuals may have passed away, and their family may either want to or not want to have that section retained as a memorial to their loved ones, or they may want to get rid of it. And then there are other going to be certain floors, I'm sure, that are probably too damaged to even try and maintain. Some of the upper floors, and a lot of the upper, as some of the views look at it, I think it's kind of the upper right section. It's all very, very blackened and charred. And again, I don't know how much damage to the materials there is, but I would imagine there's quite a lot. So some of the floors, especially, may be able to be kept. And there is talk again in the last few days about maybe trying to keep a few sections to be to form some part of some memorial type that I don't know. I think there should be a memorial. I will say that right now. Uh, I will say there definitely should be some type of permanent memorial, whether it's on the site or wherever close by. Certainly somewhere close by at least. There should be something permanent. And again, as it says, in perpetuity, there's got to be something. But some of these floors, I'm sure, will be destroyed and not being able to be kept. So it's a very, very difficult decision, and I'm not coming out and saying this. Oh, I'm supportive of Angela Rayner. I'm not a Labour person at all, or a Conservative, um, certainly. But it's going to be a very, very difficult decision. And so I don't honestly think it's really kind of a decision. I think it's going to be more of a thing, and I'll get to how they're going to do it in a second. But what it's going to be difficult to do, I think, for those working on the site, and I think it's going to be very, very difficult for anybody working on that site. It's going to be a very difficult process for them as well, for any worker that's going to have to go ahead and do it, because it is going to have to be taken down section by section, probably floor by floor. Again, there's houses and buildings very, very close by, so this is not a demolition job. There was tower blocks here in Dundee, where one of them where my paternal grandparents used to live. Those were demolished in 2013. Um, they were blown down um, safely by an expert company. That's not obviously going to be possible in this situation, with so many buildings and homes and stuff so close. It's going to have to be taken again, as it says, taken down very carefully. And it's going to possibly be, just when it comes to it, it is going to be a case of them going again, if they've got ideas, depending on any surveys they've done, and just really it's going to be a case of when they get in there, if they've got ideas, okay, we'll keep this section of um, floor 21, or we're going to keep this floor in section 5, or whatever, however they kind of make it up, and however they term it. They may get in there and they may think that, okay, well, these the sections that we wanted to save for a memorial, or we want to try and preserve it for whatever reason. They may not be able to do that. They may be able to get in there, start accessing that section, taking the stories down one by one, and might end up being that certain sections are not salvageable. So it's going to be difficult. Again, I have nothing but admiration for anyone who's going to end up working on that site, and it's going to have to be a lot of manpower and machinery power especially, and it's going to be a very difficult job for any of those working on the site. And hopefully, and I'm sure whoever gets they talk a few days ago as well about not exactly a process to decide who was going to do the job, but they look into that kind of thing, or they are looking into that thing. Um, Hopefully, anyone employees there would be will obviously act respectfully when they're whether they're local or whether they come from elsewhere in London. Obviously, hopefully they'll be, and I'm sure they will. I'm sure hopefully whoever's allowed to work on the job site would act in a respectful manner towards the situation. And remember, it's going to be a bit of a high emotional and intense kind of situation and area for a while. I do think that's going to be it. It's going to be a very sensitive and very emotional, very intense situation for any construction crews and workers that will be involved in taking it down, which they say will take approximately 2 years. They say that first of all they'll do nothing before the 8th anniversary in June, because again it was June 14, 2017 that this happened. There's not going to be any action taken, any demolishment before then. They are going to uh, leave the site right now. They are going to, I don't know whether they're going to do any preparation work as well, which is part of it, why it's going to take at least 2 years. That obviously kind of takes you up to around about the 10th anniversary of the tragedy. I honestly have been thinking about this when I'm going to record this, but we don't know, depending on how fast the work will go, what problems may arise, and what situations they may come across in terms of taking it down again. It's more than likely, again, I don't have a lot of expert knowledge, but it's likely these kind of situations when there's houses and stuff nearby that they have to take it down floor by floor, which I'm imagining that's the way they're going to have to do it, and take it apart floor by floor, depending on obviously situation. I don't know how much is going to be left by the time they get to the 10th anniversary. I can't honestly imagine, with the timetable being at least 2 years, it's not going to time wise be that they're going to end up clearing the site right getting to the 10th anniversary. I can't honestly see that happening. I think they're more likely going to be maybe 3/4 of the way done, perhaps, by the time the 10th anniversary comes around. Obviously, I would imagine there's going to be something to mark the 10th anniversary as well. There is going to be something, I believe there's something to mark. Uh, Certainly, the 8th anniversary is going to be marked, and I think it certainly should. If this is going to be the last anniversary, the tower is going to be completely standing. Obviously, there should be something, and there certainly should be something on the 10th anniversary um, in a couple of years. So there are obviously, again, as I said, families of those affected, survivors, and people like that, they all have their own different opinions on whether the tower should be taken down or not. Now it seems the public opinion in the UK is fairly mixed as well when it comes to whether the tower should remain standing as the memorial or it needs to be taken down. It seems, my own opinion, if the expert advice is that the structure is not the structure, as I said earlier, the structural integrity is not entirely there, because again it's been open basically to the elements for 8 years. It's only thin white sheeting, it's long sheeting. I'm sure it's probably protected it to a degree, but with the damage of the fire, with everything like that, it's it's difficult. I am personally, and I will not tell, and I'm not telling anybody affected in any way, shape or form, in any manner with this tragedy, what to think and how to act and what to say and everything like that. They have their own opinions that they've come to, and they're more than welcome to have those opinions and air them as they want to. But I kind of, again, as going back earlier, I kind of fear that if the structural integrity is not going to be there. The last thing we want is something else to happen. And if the genuine and independent advice, which I have no um, reason to believe it's not honest and true, if the actual advice from engineers is that the tower does need to be taken down, then I'm afraid that that is going to have to be happening. And it seems to be, again, at the time of recording this, on the 20th of February 2025, so uh, roughly about just just under 2 weeks after this announcement. If that's what the expert advice is, then I feel that that probably will have to happen again. The last thing I want is something else to happen, especially in terms of the building and its integrity. Uh, something else to happen. I don't know anyway. Some of these buildings as well, some people try and get in. Hopefully it's secured because you get some of these kind of old buildings that some people try to access. Hopefully that's not happened during the time that it's been standing there. Um, but certainly, this is a very, very difficult one. Again, people who have been affected, they have their own thoughts and opinions of whether it should be torn down. Obviously, people will feel in different ways. They'll have the opinion that it should remain there as a memorial to their loved ones who may have passed away, or survivors may think again. They may have they obviously known a lot of people who may very well have lost their life in it, been affected, obviously, in a big tower block like that. You will get, it's like neighbourhoods nowadays. Some people will know others, then other people could be living in, nearby streets or just up the road from them, and they've not spoken a word in 30 odd, 40 years. It's a very, very difficult one, this. It is extremely difficult, but if the structural advice from the engineers is that it needs to come down, then it might unfortunately have to be. Is seemingly again, that is seemingly what's happening. That might just be the only option. Because again, the last thing that anybody will want is for something more to happen on that site. So it's a difficult one, as I said. And obviously, my thoughts are with all those affected and the families who lost their lives. It is an incredible, difficult situation. And I'm sure, again, I'm not a Labour fan. I'm not, those. I'm not an Angela Rayner fan by any means. But this kind of decision, I'm sure, has not been very easy for anyone to decide. So, hopefully, um, again, they will do it with all due consideration and care. I'm sure there will be coverage of this being taken down in the media in the UK, in the BBC News. I don't know whether there'd be any solemn kind of ceremony to begin taking it down, whether there'd be any kind of thing before, as they start it. I don't know really whether they would do anything with that. Again, they're keeping it till they're not touching it until after the 8th anniversary, but sometime during the summer. We don't have an exact date right now. They will be getting that 2 year plus project of demolishing Grenfell Tower. So it's a very difficult one. I keep saying that, but it's what else can you say about it? It's an extremely difficult situation to handle. So it's going to be something that is definitely going to be closely watched by various people in the UK, by locals, by communities in London and further afield, and I'm sure across the world. Expats and you know uh, people around the world, I'm sure, will be um, keeping an eye on the situation. So yeah, it is going to have to seemingly be taken down to the ground carefully, hopefully considerately, and hopefully again, as I want to kind of leave it on this note, there definitely, as I said earlier, there should definitely be some type of memorial, whether any sections of the tower itself is involved. Hopefully, maybe there's at least they can preserve something, at least a couple of few bits from the tower, similar to what they did in New York, which I know is a completely different situation. But they've done some stuff with um, materials from New York, from there. maybe something can be done by a local fabricator or some local artist or something. Maybe I don't know. But definitely there should be a consultation with the local community about a permanent memorial and a definite decision sometime soon before it's completely demolished, obviously, and proper plans put in for a permanent memorial. But as I said, Grenfell Tower is to be taken carefully down to the ground, and I feel unfortunately that's going to probably be the best decision.